Bitcoin taking a little bit of a tumble. We're also seeing the altcoin market likely setting up for a little bit of a dip. What are we doing about it? What key crypto targets should we be watching? Let's go ahead and get this retweeted out. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. We're getting into this in about 25 seconds. I'm just getting these things retweeted in all the places. I hope you all having a wonderful weekend. Did you buy anything? Did you pick anything up? Did you sell anything in the markets over the weekend? What did you do? Or did you sit on your hands and do other things, getting out of the markets and back into the real life? We're going to be diving into this in just a moment. So I hope you all are feeling good. Where are you tuned in from? What city, what state, what country? Let me know in the live chat right now. We're getting into this right now. It's all retweeted. It's time to talk about these levels. We got our boys coming back on today. So let's go. Monday. We had an incredible weekend. DZ got married this weekend. We all went out there, got to spend some time with him, have a wonderful time out of the charts, out of the markets. But we're back. It is Monday. We got to talk about this because we're seeing some signs for a little bit of downside price action. So let's dive right on into it. I hope you're all feeling good. Looking at what we're seeing right here, this is the CME futures, which is indicating not only the gap that we have below us. Let's ignore the gap. Who cares about the gap? Let's actually just look at the price action. The price action structure itself was indicating that we would likely get a move to the downside, and we are kind of getting that right now. We've lost this we've lost this level of support as we're seeing right here. In addition to this, what do we see? Higher highs on the price action as it goes. And in the same time period, we're seeing lower highs here on the RSI, indicating a little bit of weakness coming into the zone. And now look, we've lost it, come down, and we do have this target. This is where this bottom, this is also where this rejected. If we zoom back over here, we have this rejection here, bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, bounce here. And this is when you start looking at the CME gap and realize it's kind of lining up about the same level, 91.8. Let's go back to what we were just looking at, 91.795, 91.8. So we're seeing two different zones right now that we're indicating that we would likely get some downside in addition to the weakness in the price action. Also here on the CME futures, higher highs, and look at this, lower highs on the RSI, indicating that weakness was there. We also, of course, have a CME futures gap directly above the price action right in here. So what's going to happen? It doesn't really, in fact, I would hope that we wouldn't just come up here and fill this gap, because this means that we would still have this sort of magnet liquidity interest zone that is below us down in here. If this were to come down, this is what we'd like to see on the bullish note. Yes, sometimes you want to see price action go down and fill a lower zone before making that next move to the upside. But how's everybody doing? How you feeling? I had a wonderful weekend. Spent some time with my girlfriend, hung out with DZ. I had to get my windshield replaced. And then yesterday I had issues randomly with my car. It's a newer car. Something happened with my transmission. I don't know, but today it was fine. So I'm still going to take it in and say, hey, what the heck is going on? But that's just life. Sometimes life does things to makes you find your patience and just appreciation for where you're at. But coming back over before the boys get in here and log in, we got the crypto coin market cap of the total crypto market cap is back below $3 trillion. That means it's over, right? The bull market is over. I do not think that is in any stretch of the imagination. But what we're seeing right now is just, I mean, we can see this across the board, a little bit of pullbacks to the downside. So we'll look at some targets on this here in a little bit. Who we got in here? We got Crypto Princess. Let's get that interview scheduled. Let's make that happen, Crypto Princess. Got Chipper in here, Falco, Giga Longbottom. How you doing? Eskeet or Esketit, you said. We got the fam jam in here, so I hope everybody's doing well. I'm feeling good. I'm actually thankful that the market's having a little bit of a pullback. I know I got some capital coming in about a week. And when you know you're regularly adding money to the markets, you get excited when you get a pullback because you have a plan versus just wanting it to go up all the time. I know the inevitable pressure in this market is going to be absolute gigaboom to the upside. So when we're looking at the price action and we see that we might break to the downside, that's not the end of the world. In fact, again, when we zoom out, it is an incredibly bullish structure that we've been seeing play out And this small little zone right here, if we were to pull back, I talked about this last week, even a move down into this yellow trend line, which would essentially even be below that 91.8. This would be this intersection of this rising level of support, this horizontal level of previous resistance, now hopefully acting as support. This would be down in that $88,500 region. So even right here, I just wanted you to point out, we do have the CME futures gap at 91.8. But we do have a zone that is below this that if we are aware of it, it doesn't bother us if we do get the kind of rotation, finding support in here, which would ultimately be what? Price action retesting the previous range highs. This would be perfectly in order when we're considering, a further bullish structure for reversal where we have lower low, lower low, lower low. This would ultimately just be a really very well established higher low before we make that move to the upside. So as it stands right now, I am very bullish. Everything that's going on. We're seeing some other things in the charts, though. We're seeing some other things in the market that we got to pay attention to. So let's get through that. Alliance Berenstein now projecting public companies will buy $330 billion in Bitcoin in the next 4 years. $330 billion. This does not take into account different states. This does not take into account nations. This is just, people seeing what's playing out on not only MicroStrategy's crypto, the Bitcoin reserve corporate treasury sort of plan outline. This is just people becoming very aware that Bitcoin is something that you need to have on your balance sheet, whether you're an individual, an institution, or a country. And currently, right now, this would be accounted with 124 billion from MicroStrategy alone. Because remember, last week they just upped their planned buys from 42 billion to 84, and we've heard from Michael Saylor himself that his plan was to continue to increase buying money raises to get more allocation to Bitcoin along the way. And sometimes still people look at the price and they go, Bitcoin's price is high. And those of us that are looking at this into the future, we realize this is actually a tremendous discounted price for where this is going, especially considering it is a fixed cap, a fixed total supply asset. Now, beyond this, it's not just Berenstein talking about this. What else we got? We see Donald Trump. Let's see what he says about this, because crypto over stocks. Well, let's see what Donald Trump has to say.
I want crypto. I think crypto is important because if we don't do it, China's going to. And it's new. It's very popular. It's very hot. If you look at the market, when the market went down, that stayed much stronger than other aspects of the market. But I want crypto because a lot of people, millions of people want it. I don't know if you know that Biden went after it violently, and then before the election, he changed his tune entirely. His head of the SEC, everybody changed their tune. You know why? Because there were hundreds of millions of people that are participating in crypto, and they wanted to get their votes.
Crypto, Bitcoin specifically, but crypto held up better in the face of this massive downturn that we saw in the markets. And you can see this beautifully. Let me refresh this page. You can see this beautifully in this correlation between the S&P 500 and Bitcoin when you pull up this chart right here and you see this massive swing to the downside in blue. This is S&P 500. Whereas Bitcoin, did it drop? Yes, it did, but it wasn't this sort of cataclysmic drop all the way back to a range high all the way back here. Actually, it was, except look at this. The strength of what we're seeing in Bitcoin holding up here is incredible. And this is also where we have only the increasing buying pressure coming in as the awareness grows around everything in this market. Let me get through a couple more things. I see Matthew Hyland is in the backdrop, but we're going to bring him on here in just a moment. But Donald Trump, seeing these sorts of comments, even if you don't like Trump, seeing these sorts of comments at the top levels of government on world stages, and you see people like BlackRock, you see, the CEO of Van Eck, you see what's going on with 21 Shares and Cathie Woods. You see what's going on also with Warren Buffett stepping aside. He's going to be retiring. What's going to happen with that $380 billion in cash they have on hand? Is the new CEO going to take a more Bitcoin focused approach? I don't know, but I do know that regardless of who doesn't get in, the fixed total supply availability in Bitcoin is is a real thing. And as more and more people get involved, it's going to have such an explosive effect on price. And it's just amazing where we are at right now. We also have today the deadline for the US Treasury to release major report on creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve, accounting for the audit of how much crypto do we really hold. There's suggestions, there's ideas, but they're getting that accounting down to see really where we stand before we take that next step, because who knows, maybe they sold some of the crypto that was in reserves. Maybe they did not, especially a lot of that confiscated Bitcoin that they have is supposed to be around 198,000. Is it going to be there? Well, we're going to have to see, because it's going to have a major impact, especially with what their strategic Bitcoin plans are going to be in terms of, are we going to use that as the initial amount that we start with and then we buy 800,000 more? Did they sell 100,000? We have to answer these questions before we can get moving forward on these next steps of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. But these are all, they're doing it. Everybody feels like this is slow. The speed at which that the Trump administration has moved since the inauguration has been phenomenal. So it'd be great. Shout out to Alexandra G. I see you there. Say you're lurking. Have a great day. You have a great day. I also see you, John 316. Thank you for the messages. One House Production said, what happened with Jeb? Jeb, I know he had some things going on in his life, but that is for him to share. But we still periodically chat with one another. Wonderful fella. We got Chipper in here as well. We got the fam here. What does that say? Weldy. Well, we got Crypto Princess. Liski, I don't know how to pronounce that, but welcome to the show. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm a little tired today. When I got done doing the Discover Crypto show, my hip went out of joint. So you can tell my energy is a little shifted. It's because of that. Now, continuing on, I don't know where Matthew Hyland went, but he should be back on in a second. Is ETH about to get this reversal everybody's been waiting for? Well, the big players out there, especially the long-term holders, the people that have been accumulating Ethereum, well, we can see that they have since basically in the last few weeks, they have actually accrued 22.5% increase in those long-term held coins. Essentially, these addresses have been stacking in. The accumulation addresses of Ethereum have increased their positions by 22.54%. Behavior reflects structural conviction and clear expectations of short-term appreciation. Well, let's see how that plays out, because when we look at Ethereum, we come over here, it looks like it's trying its best to bottom. And this is right in the zone that we have marked out for quite some time, all the way back here until March 2016. And we see this area of interest, and this has come right down into it. Again, this is the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. So the value of Ethereum against Bitcoin, it has been dropping persistently all the way since, you could argue, November 2021. Drop, look at this, lower high. So this is still a downtrend, and then just continued melt to the downside. Is this going to be a bottom, or is this going to continue moving further and further down? We don't know. We see the big money players. We see the accumulation addresses have been stacking. We also see what's going on with Ondo. We also see what's going on with things like the BitL Fund with BlackRock, and how much DeFi is in the Ethereum ecosystem. I don't think the Ethereum ecosystem is going anywhere. The question is, how is the speculative market of Ethereum going to perform? Is it still going to be the area where you can get large gains? I mean, this is, just giant M formation, really kind of a triple top here. Bing, bing, bing. But then this is falling down. We kind of have this falling wedge. If we zoom out a little bit, kind of have this falling wedge. Boom, 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 boom. Now it's broken out, but it's now being held resistance from this previous support and resistance that's come all the way across. It's having a little bit of struggle. We talked about this last week, though, when this pushed up. Look at this. We drew this as a potential move sideways into the zone before it either took a one more spill to test this previous range before moving up, or finding just some accumulation here before that pressure is relieved, and it just, boom, shoots to the upside. I think we're in for some exciting price action. This week, we have the FOMC meeting that is happening Wednesday, so we got to keep our eyes on the markets between now and Wednesday evening, because I do think there's going to be some traps along the way. In fact, if we come over here and look at the liquidation levels and zoom in on this, what do we see? Let me go ahead. There we go. So this is on the 2-week chart. We still have quite a bit of liquidity below us with a little bit of a node up here. We see once this got very hot, boom, took this out, consolidated a bit, and then distribution, boom, moved all the way back down. But now let's go look at this on the 48-hour chart. This just looks a little bit, there's no conviction here. There's longs that can get liquidated if this comes down, and there's plenty of shorts that can get liquidated if this moves to the upside. I do think that we are in for a little bit of choppiness, probably through Wednesday, and I would still not hold conviction on a direction through the end of Friday into Sunday because of the big things at play. I don't think we're going to get a rate cut on Wednesday. If we do, because it's a 99% chance based on the CME FedWatch tool, if we do, that will probably be a pretty damn bullish jolt to the market. If we don't, we'll likely get a sell-off. But then there's going to be the press conference. It's about 30 minutes or an hour afterwards. And based on the tone and what he's talking about, what they're looking for, and you know how they dissect everything that he says, that could give indication about where that direction is going to go. So let's pay attention to that as well. Now, what else we got in here before we kick it over? I don't know if they're coming on because Matt was on here, but I don't know, he was having issues with his camera. But this is what we're talking about with ETH. Ethereum leads with $6.5 billion in world asset tokenization, TVL. Ethereum, the number one chain in the world. And this is what you're seeing when people go, ETH is dead. How could it be dead if it's literally dominating in magnitude against other smart contract platforms? Now, are other ones growing faster? Maybe some of them are. They're coming from nowhere. It's a lot easier to grow on a percentage basis when you are the new shiny thing. But Ethereum is still holding up pretty damn well. And in fact, look at this. Even though it's the biggest on the block, what do you see here? The largest upward movement in the last 30 days. So despite it being larger than the rest, it also has the largest, increase here in TVL on the RWAs. Look at this market share, 57% market share Ethereum has over the rest. Shout out to the crew that came in. I think it's Blockchain Basement. Big love to you. We see Crypto Coder. How you doing? What's up, Kelly? Crypto Coder, that you wouldn't be OG, would you? I did your avatar here on your image. It looks like OG General. But shout out to the fam, Eric Serrano. We got Crypto Princess, Sufficient Enough, Fade and Traffi. What's up? He said, I don't know about dominating, shrinking by the day. You know, Fade and Traffi, I agree with you. I do think it's fading in some regards, especially in the awareness. However, when you look at the size, that's all I'm talking about. The size of Ethereum, there's a difference between a protocol, a project, having a lot going on, a huge ecosystem, an active ecosystem, and speculative price. Can this project make me a lot of money in the next 3 months or this year? Other projects further down that CoinMarketCap ranking will likely make you more. And it's very hard to parse apart what we're seeing with Ethereum because there's so many other competitors out there that are doing things that in some ways have better technology perceptively because it's newer, it's faster, it's more TPS, but a lot of them also haven't been tested the same way Ethereum has. And Ethereum keeps changing. So, went from proof of work to proof of stake. They're doing these upgrades along the way. They've lost the narrative appeal within the market. So do I think the ETH ecosystem is going to die? No, I don't. Do I think it's going to make you a hell of a lot of money this cycle? I think it's a safer play with contingency. So it's up to you. But it's all good. I mean, I don't own any ETH. That'll give you my indication about where I'm feeling about ETH. But it's not also because I think ETH's not going to do well. I'm just being very selectively aggressive about where I'm putting money this cycle. Shout out Dave Middleton. How you doing? But what else we got? We got a couple other things to look at here. We got right here, Bitcoin is heavily oversold. The Bitcoin AASI, what are we seeing? The active address change. And this is what we're seeing. When this has gotten to these levels, this has been great accumulation before launch. Look at this. This actually was coming down and it's oversold. Great liftoff right here. This was the FTX collapse. And this also signaled, boom, great opportunity for upside. And we kind of hit the same thing again. Hit it twice before this large move. And this was not a small move. This may not look like some cataclysmically incredibly large move to the upside, but that move was about over 110, 105, 110%. Let's see. That would be this move right here. We see, boom, Let me go like this. Now the measurement. This would be, look at that, 123% move on that. So we got to stay stacking. We got to stay focused. We got to make sure that we're getting things in order, because I think when this trade war stuff sorts itself out, into August, especially when we get this, we should probably have the stablecoin bill passed by then. And then also the Bitcoin Act with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, 1 million Bitcoin purchase. Will it get passed? I don't know, but we are going to see other nations, states here in the U.S. We just had the Arizona one get vetoed by Governor Hobbs, which is just ridiculous. But we still have North Carolina. We still have Texas. There's a number of other states as well as other things going on. So let's not get sidetracked. But I'm going to throw it over to my boy because my hip is hurting. Man, you could probably tell in my demeanor. But we got our boy here, Mr. Hyland. How you doing?
I'm trying to
good
share
sir?
the link, man. Come on.
Share
Give
what
me a
link?
second. The stream.
Oh, share. Oh, I'll cut you off. You go share it. Share it. Oh, you're done. You're done. I just muted your face. I'm just joking. But everybody, make sure you're going over giving Matthew a follow. He puts out so much damn good content. It blows me away. It's just nonstop all day, every day. Give him a follow at Matthew Hyland _. He will be with us out there in Vegas as well. Him and Kevin Svensson. They will be there in tandem. They're going to be staying in this. There's a kids room that we have set aside with a nice rainbow with bunk beds that are, it's going to be Kevin and Matthew Hyland they're going to be doing bold divergences on each other.
Oh my God, you're too much. Where is Kevin though? Where is
I
this
don't
guy?
know. He's got
The second straight,
stuff going on.
second straight week in a row. He's
I know.
AFK or MIA. Yeah,
It's all,
you might have to like kick him out in the street or something when we
I
get to
know,
Vegas.
right? We're going to have to make him
Yeah,
sleep by the trash cans in Vegas.
or he's gonna have to pay for the first round or something. Oh
But what are you
man.
looking at? What are you seeing in the market? What are you feeling?
Oh, let me move this webcam over a little bit. I think the structure so far is fine. Like this is, I see a lot of fear returning once again, as expected, right? First pullback, we had this big move up. Um, Probably, I mean, ideally, if this could end up holding here around 93K would be nice. There's obviously the major support here down here. This is around 92 or 91.5K. Um, a retest of that wouldn't be, too crazy if we get that. Is it possible we slide down here during the week and then start, retesting this breakout? Definitely. I think this breakout at some point will come back into play. I just don't know when. If I were to like draw out like a path that would make kind of sense, maybe this ends up coming all the way up here over the coming month or so, getting back to the highs, and then maybe in the summer, um, we end up pulling back, and then eventually come back down there, retest it, and then move out of it. This would be actually, hold up, this should extend more because this only goes to about July. So, but if something like that were to play out, that'd be a huge inverse head and shoulders. This would also really scare people too, right? If we came up here and then pulled back down to this 88 or 89K level at some point, a lot of people would be saying this is a double top, which it actually could be, right? If that were the case, if that ended up playing out. So this would be like a really tricky path for the market to go through if this were to play out. I actually hope like it doesn't. This would be just mass confusion, right? 100% mass confusion. You would have so many people, rightfully so, saying this might be a double top, but then on the flip side, you'll have a lot of people saying left shoulder, um, head, right shoulder. Typically, the inverse head and shoulders is more of a reversal pattern, so it's not like the most ideal to see it like kind of form at a top. That wouldn't be like the most common thing. I'd have to look at like the metrics. I believe it's pretty low, or it's not favorable. I'd say it's probably like 30 or 40% of the time. So it's not common. Like most of the times, it comes after a huge dump. You get inverse head and shoulders. So it is known as a reversal pattern. But regardless, overall for Bitcoin, as long as it holds above this 92K area on the weekly time frame, continues to maintain above this support level, I think it's relatively healthy. This breakout above this resistance area was really significant. Seen some chop. This weekly candle was kind of weak here. If you look at this long wick, so maybe it does suggest a pullback, and it makes sense, right? We're heading into the FOMC meeting, and then next week as well. Today's the 5th. I believe the CPI comes in on the 13th, so that would be a week from tomorrow. I think the CPI might be like kind of the thing that really gets the ball rolling once again. Maybe the FOMC kind of just leads to like a little bit of a disappointment sell-off that we don't get rate cuts, which we probably won't at the May FOMC meeting. It is possible we get a curveball and they surprise us and they end QT. That happened, I believe, back here. This was back in the March FOMC meeting, the last one we had, I believe it was. They had ended QT back then. I don't remember what date it was. Pretty close to the bottom, right? It was around this time frame. We're up since then. A lot of alts are also up since then. So we could get a curveball. Maybe QT ends up ending in 2 days at the FOMC. I think that the market would really like that. But if that doesn't happen, maybe we just chop into that CPI, and then the CPI, if it comes in lower, can really probably start to set things off. I think, let me go to the daily time frame on Bitcoin. The last CPI was around, I believe, April 11th. So that was around this candle right here, I believe it was. So the last CPI read that we had, inflation came in lower. Bitcoin opened the day at $80,000. And now here we are almost a month later, and Bitcoin's up to currently $94,000. So since the last CPI, we have moved up significantly. It came about 2 days after the bottom. This was the same day where the S&P 500 had that huge 10% day. So if I go over to Trueflation, I just want to take a look to see what's going on with the Trueflation number. We've looked at this in the past. Let me see. I'm on a different browser. Hold up. Let me try to zoom. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so Trueflation is currently showing that inflation is around approximately 1.4%. And if we go back during the last read, which was April, we got the March one, which came in around 2.4% approximately. I believe that was the March one or the February. Pretty sure it was March though, right? So since then, if you go to March, inflation has continued downward. I think the CPI will reflect that. I believe the estimates currently are expected to come in. They're expecting, I believe, 2.3%. There's only a few estimates out there, though. I don't know when they actually published them. I had just asked ChatGPT 2 days ago, and it said, yeah, a few of them were expecting 2.3%. But I believe the last one, they expected, I think it was 2.7%, and then it came in at 2.4%. So it came in much lower. And then we also had the PCE read last week, I believe it was, and that also came in. It didn't come in lower than it came in lower, but then I think it came in where they expected, I believe. So inflation went down once again. We also will have the PPI the following day. I believe it would be typically after the CPI, we get it the following day. So if these inflation numbers continue to go down, I think the market will like that, because that essentially means it's getting closer to what the Federal Reserve wants, which is 2%. And if we go back here to Trueflation, if you look, really since this was December, January, around this time frame, it basically topped after going up since September. It basically topped, made a lower low, and then has continued downward. And CPI and PPI and everything else has followed that. So the Federal Reserve has been saying that they expect inflation to go up due to the tariffs, but currently we're not seeing that. And one of the charts actually that I'll actually take a look at, which is interesting, is the oil chart. I haven't really covered this like at all. I believe this is a ticker. If you look at the oil chart, so energy is like one of the most important things when it comes to inflation measurements. Oh, let me move this over. If you look at this chart, this is a major breakdown, right?
What are we
Oops,
seeing?
I'm not sharing the right one. All right, so this chart, I'm like looking at you. I'm like, oh damn, he's not even reacting to this. If you look at this chart, man, this is oil, right? this looks like it's going down. So the
Right.
price
This
of
would have a
oil,
major impact on the economy, but also on inflation because of the cost of shipping goods.
yeah, it's one of the most important things when it comes to inflation. So a lot of everyone keeps saying inflation is going to go up. Inflation's been going down now since January. Will the tariffs cause inflation, or could it also cause demand to crater and not cause inflation? That's also a possibility. It's happened in the past. Uh, but regardless, the oil, chart looks like this is going to just continue to break down. Major support loss here. So and it looks like it retested it and got rejected. So this should put, pressure on disinflation, and continue to push inflation down. So on one hand, there's policies uh, with the tariffs that might be inflationary, but on the other hand, there are also policies that are almost pretty much disinflationary or deflationary, where they're pushing the prices down because the U.S. is now producing, I believe, more oil. It's probably the reason, right, that we're seeing oil go down. There's more supply than demand. So when that
Well, I
happens,
think
the price.
there's probably a pretty big curtailing or reduction on shipping right now because of the trade war as well.
Yeah, there's probably plenty of factors. It probably ultimately comes down to the supply being increased, but it also could be like demand going down, vice versa. There's probably plenty of factors, but regardless, this contributes to inflation going down. So I think inflation, whether it be on this update next week or the update in June, will probably reach 2%. I believe it's pretty much on a trajectory to do so. So the FOMC meeting in June is at the very end of the month. It's around June, I think 27th, I believe. So by then we're gonna have the CPI read next week, and then we're also gonna have the CPI read next month as well as another PCE update, as well as two more PPI updates. So by the June FOMC meeting, I think that's why um, they're expecting rate cuts around that time, or that's why the betting markets are kind of betting that there's a decent chance. I think it was like 60%. I have to look. It always fluctuates. I believe that's why they're betting that we're going to see a rate cut around that time. We'll see though. We'll see what happens. But if we get more inflation data that suggests it's going down, then it definitely will put more pressure on the Fed because inflation below 2%, if it goes down below 2%, actually puts pressure on everything. Essentially, it means things are kind of like slowing down essentially, and it can lead to more issues, more problems in the economy. So the way the Fed fights it or handles it is by cutting rates, is by increasing liquidity because it wants to push the prices back up because lower prices, while they sound good on the surface, can lead to unemployment, a recession, et cetera, et cetera. So if we go to the S&P 500, take a look at this. I believe it's actually, so it's only down 0.17%. Let me remove this. I would say overall, the S&P 500, if it can reclaim up here this breakdown that it had, so it reclaimed this first breakdown last week. If it can reclaim this next one up here, would be pretty significant. It would mean it's creating a higher high if it makes a higher high above here. You could actually argue that this is a higher high. Getting above this high right here was a higher high, but getting above here would really just kind of kill like the bear market narrative. Um, this is something. This is like the area where bears would want to sell, or people that want to exit, or people that believe that we're going into a bear market would want to exit. They'd want to exit on this pump here. So that's pretty much the area to watch for the S&P 500. This is around 57.73.
Man, that would make
Um,
such a badass inverted head and shoulders on the S&P 500 if that happened.
Yeah, that's why I drew it out like this. It
Potentially.
makes sense. It makes sense for the S&P 500 to test up here. I wouldn't expect it to break through this on the first try. If it does, then the markets are really strong, and we're probably going to see a really quick recovery then across the board. Like the S&P 500 will get back up to the all-time highs probably soon after, and then Bitcoin as well. And I believe Bitcoin's actually not closer from a percentage standpoint, but from a structural standpoint, looks even better than the S&P 500 currently. This looks like, I mean, as long as 92K holds, as long as the support holds, this is probably going to push back up to the all-time highs. I think it favors that at this point. We're in a situation where it's more favorable that we're going to see a retest of these highs And then from there, we'll see how it reacts, right? Whether it gets up there, gets rejected, wants to come back down here once again, or break out and then push to new all-time highs at some point.
Well, to your point on the S&P 500, this chart here shows this S&P 500 advanced decline line back at all-time highs during the 5 previous times this has happened after crashes, like we saw here, like we saw here, like we saw here. This is all basically the lows we're in, and the price, the prices continued to appreciate out of that. It's showing that the
Yeah.
lows had been established. So we're seeing a number of different metrics suggesting that, but there's still fear. There's still fear. It's not fear mongering. There is still
There's
concern
fear.
for risk management here because SP 500 hasn't really come back up. It's only come back into a level that could very easily be rejected, so it does cause some concern. But do you think that if the S&P 500 went down right now, with everything bullish in the background for Bitcoin and the crypto markets looking into the rest of this year, would that bring Bitcoin down with it, or do you think this could potentially break that trend?
I would say it would definitely put pressure on Bitcoin, but at the same time, I think this is like a strong structural break above that Bitcoin had. This was a really great sign. If the S&P 500 was going into like an actual full bear market where it went lower, it made new lower lows, and it's hard to really see Bitcoin really do too much. Maybe it would sweep the highs once again. But there are also indicators like you showed that pretty much flashed. I had one. If you go to my Twitter page, I recently quote tweeted it. It was the 2-week RSI on the S&P 500. I'm gonna go to my Twitter. I can't load it up on my web browser. I'm having like issues.
Let me see. It's right
It was
here.
recently. I recently retweeted it. Just scroll down a little bit. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It'll be the S&P 500 chart, so it will look different. It was a quote tweet. Right there, right there. So I tweeted this on April 8th. So this was the day before the bottom. Um, the S&P 500 weekly RSI had only been that low 2 times in the last 25 years, which was 2020 and 2008. So that's why I tweeted it, because I was like, wait, this is pretty extreme at this point, the velocity of the sell-off. So it ended up bouncing significantly. That was the pretty much bottom right there, or the day before the bottom. I believe that was on Sunday night. So it was when the futures were down a lot and whatnot. So yeah, that ended up, at least for now, looks like it reached a low.
Well,
I think,
what's funny about that is I actually just shared on my page. I retweeted this. Where's it at? This post right. I just retweeted right here. On the 7th, I posted this about the VIX peak, suggesting that
mhm,
a bottom could be forming. And this was the 7th. So you're looking at different metrics, but also looking at the 8th,
the
7th, and 8th. We were seeing signs that we could be forming a bottom here to get that next leg up. In this case, it was the VIX compared to Bitcoin, but you're talking about RSI, as it
2 week
relates to,
RSI.
yeah.
Yeah, and the VIX too. I can actually go to that right now. The VIX too. This was like another thing that gave me confidence at that time. Same thing. That was around, yeah, April 7th. It reached that high. Let me see. It's funny. I actually had this like falling wedge. I drew this out actually back in like probably in 2022, I think, because I drew it out around sometime around this, but it ended up almost playing out right. We had that first wick last summer, didn't get back up to the highs. Maybe this consolidates again, and then maybe like next year or something, maybe it ends up pushing and getting up to these highs. It would make sense for it too, because that's like a pattern. That's like the breakout target. But yeah, it basically got back up to where we got to last summer. Currently coming down. And for people that don't use this, this is basically the volatility for the S&P 500 index. And usually whenever this peaks or has these spikes, it usually marks a bottom. When you're in the moment, though, you don't know when the actual peak is going to come. Like here, start to move up, and then on this weekly candle, or this 2 week, let me see, on this weekly candle, this is when it moved up. So this was another solid sign that that we at least have found our low or temporary low right here. Uh, but yeah, the VIX was another great indicator. I'm trying to see. I want to look at M2 money supply. We haven't looked at this in a little while, but if you look here, it has broken to new all-time highs. Interesting. So M2 money supply is breaking to new all-time highs. This was the February update, so we don't have March, April, or May yet. So this is going to continue higher probably. So liquidity is increasing, M2 money supply moving up. Or is this the M2 money stock? I believe this is the same thing though. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. This is the M2 money supply. Yeah, same exact thing, same number. So this has moved up higher. And then usually when you see this go up, I mean, this obviously has always gone up, but this was really the first pullback during the Fed's tightening cycle that it went through. This was really the first pullback we've ever seen. And now it's breaking out. So logically, after going through, I guess you could call it a bear market on this, I would think now that it's breaking out, this is going to start to expedite higher. It's never gone through anything like this. I guess you could say it slowed down here. This is in the 90s, kind of went sideways. But yeah, this pulled back for the first time really, and now it's breaking out higher. So it's definitely setting up, in my opinion, overall. So let's see. I want to go to Ethereum. Ethereum, let's go to ETH BTC, or we'll go to ETH USD first. This continues to just like lag. It is holding up well over the past 2 weeks, you could say, against BTC. I believe ETH BTC is in the green the past 2 weeks. Currently green as well. So the last 2 weeks actually closed green. This week is green as well. This really needs to find a bottom before Bitcoin dominance can, find a top essentially. Interestingly enough, though, despite ETH BTC being in the green the last 2 weeks, Bitcoin dominance moved up as well. And probably the reason why is probably because of XRP, which I'm going to just take a quick look at XRP BTC. I would suspect this closed in the red. Yeah, so despite ETH moving up against Bitcoin the last 2 weeks, XRP kind of slowing down, and XRP is now at the market cap where it's significant enough to really affect Bitcoin dominance. I believe it's around 100 something billion, like 130 billion. It's more than half the size of Ethereum. So yeah, XRP also needs to do some work here. Obviously had the big move up, which kind of helped at the time, but we pretty much either need ETH or XRP to take off. Look at the XRP chart. Say it's like kind of consolidating here, which isn't a bad sign. After you move up significantly like this, you have this huge move up to consolidate it and just not lose it all immediately. Usually when you see a
I wouldn't be
consolidate,
surprised on XRP though if it took a swing lower just to trap people before moving up. Because even with that bull flagish shape, if you just look at the candles look like they're trying to do a bear reversal. You know,
yeah, this does look more like a bull flag the more I look at it. I had it drawn out as a lot of people did too, as an inverse head and shoulders, or not an inverse, a head and shoulders pattern. It looked like it, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. But these wicks kind of, I would say more or less negate it. This looks more like a bull flag, which is actually a good sign, right? If this is a bull flag and then at some point it breaks out, if it breaks out of this, a sweep down here would definitely scare people. But it could definitely do that. That would come down to around $1.50. But on the bull side, though, if you treat this as a bull flag and you measure this out, I think it gets to like around $10 or so. I mean, it would depend where this breakout takes place. Let's say it came in July or something. Um, Still $11. So it would be a significant move for XRP if it can get this. And if it did get this, if it did get to $11, then yeah, Bitcoin dominance definitely would be dropping down. Because essentially it would mean that in order for Bitcoin dominance to not be affected by XRP moving up 5x from here, Bitcoin would also have to move up 5x, like in terms of XRP's impact on Bitcoin dominance, if that makes sense.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, if XRP got up here, this would mean it would be around a $500 billion market cap. That would be really, really, significant, a huge number actually, 500 billion, just a gigantic number for XRP to reach to. So I'll be rooting for it. Anyone who's holding alts should be rooting for it. Even if you don't hold XRP, um, it still would help, right? It would mean that Bitcoin dominance is going to head down, which means it's more of a risk-on type of environment. When I take a look at the DXY, interesting. This looks like the oil chart actually. Kind of looks like it like broke down, retesting the breakdown. Kind of reclaim this area though. Let me see if there's anything. Look at like Solana. Solana too is nice consolidation, huge move up. Has been consolidating. We'll see what this ends up doing. We'll go to a few others. Another one. We'll go to Dog. Dog had a big move up the past month actually. The past few weekly candles all green. Um, if it got a pullback to this area, this is around 0.23 or 0.0023. Kind of looks like a falling or rising wedge to me. So that'd be the breakdown target to retest, but making higher highs. There's quite a few, and I cover them in my Patreon, but there's quite a few, or not quite a few. I'd say like 10 coins or so I've seen that I'm covering that are breaking out against BTC. They're making higher highs, so most coins are either just kind of like sitting at the bottoms against BTC or going down against BTC, but there are some coins that have moved up against BTC. So there's definitely like some out there that are showing strength. Let me see if I have this. We got Dog BTC making a higher high. It went down a lot, obviously. So some of the coins that went down a lot have recovered a decent amount now over the past month, but their structure just looks different to BTC or against BTC. Like most alts just don't have this, where they're making higher highs, which is not a bad sign, right? I would think if we are in like a bear market, I don't think we would be seeing this, where we're seeing a bunch of lower cap alts making higher highs against BTC. I think you only really see that in like bullish environments, more bullish environments. So uh, seeing that happen right now is definitely not a bad sign. And a lot of these alts, especially like when Bitcoin pulled back over the past day or past few days or so, the ones that were breaking upward against BTC have held up pretty well uh, overall. So not a bad sign. There's probably just more work that needs to be done. I think it really just comes down to inflation coming down, the Fed changing their stance probably in June. Maybe we get a surprise though. Like I said earlier, maybe we get a surprise and on Wednesday they end QT. The last QT taper was a real surprise for me, at least. I didn't expect that at all. I don't think anyone really did. Most people were expecting it, I think, to start or them to do something with QT around May or June, but they did it at the last FOMC, so that came as a surprise. So who knows? Maybe they have another surprise up their sleeve. I just like for me, I just when I look at the argument about inflation and the tariffs, and that's really like the main thing that the markets are honing in on or focusing in on currently. The Fed keeps saying that inflation is going to go up because of the tariffs, but meanwhile we're seeing inflation go down. It's at its lowest basically. Let me go out. It doesn't want me. Hold up. It won't let me go out a few years. That's unfortunate. I believe this is the lowest inflation has been at since probably 2020, I think. I know during the actually, you know what? We'll just make it easy. I'm just going to load up the CPI chart just so we get the accurate data of where inflation currently is. Okay. So this is the lowest.
Yeah,
Where did
all
it
the way
get?
back since basically everything pre-COVID. Yeah.
It got to 2.4% in September of last year. It got to 2.4% on the last update. So if it drops lower, then this will be the lowest since oops, oh, come on, February, I guess, of 2021. So over 4 years, this would be the lowest inflation has been at in over 4 years. You look here, like this was during the crash back in 2020. It actually got, inflation went down to 0.1%. And that's because demand cratered. Obviously, everything's shutting down. People, were in fear because they didn't know what was going on, so they weren't going to spend as much money. And then they injected the trillions, et cetera. It pushed inflation up. So if inflation does come down, this is really like the thing that everyone just has to watch. If inflation goes down below 2.2%, 2%, we get a read like that. I think the markets will really, really like it. And then from there, things will probably start to change, especially on the riskier side. Usually when the rates are lower and there's more borrowing, people have more money to spend. Um, and it allows people to speculate, take out loans to speculate, etc. Um, and just think about like in general, right? If your interest rates are lower, that means your car payment's lower, your credit card payment is probably lower, et cetera, et cetera. So you have more money to then go buy, speculative things like crypto or anything, right? So lower interest rates affect the whole market as a whole. Um, Even the Russell, let me see if I can find this. Is this it right here? So this is like lower cap stocks. They haven't performed well as they haven't performed well either. So it's not just a crypto exclusive thing. This went back down. This chart, this is the Russell 2000, went back down to the 2022 lows back here on this recent pullback. So this isn't just crypto that the rates are affecting. This is also affecting the stock market as well. The lower cap stocks struggling, um, while the higher, larger indexes have been doing better overall over the past few years. So it's not something just exclusive to crypto, but I would think it would change. And usually another decent sign too, when this breaks to all-time highs, that's typically when alts have ran. You go back here. This was I can't. This was around November 2020. So that's when alts started to take off back in that cycle, last cycle. When this broke all-time highs, we saw this run up, and that was a great sign, right, for alts. Alts started to run with the Russell 2000. They all broke out to new all-time highs. That's when Ethereum, I believe, broke out to new all-time highs as well. Then you go back to this cycle back here. This was back here in this was around November of 2016, broke to all-time highs. And that cycle, that's when things started to move a little bit earlier. Bitcoin was moving up. That's when Ethereum really started to take off about a few months after that. So I would say this is also something else to watch. If this ever broke out, it has a lot of work to do from the current level it's currently at. So, but if this broke out, then yeah, then I would think alts would run too. And it begs to question. I was having this conversation in my Discord this morning. Someone had asked about like left translated lengthening. It is interesting, right? It does feel like from like this cycle perspective, especially for alts, it almost feels like it's like lengthened. And then when you look at the Russell 2000, this is also lengthening as well.
Oh yeah.
At this point, 4 years ago, this was basically reaching the all-time highs, while right now it's well below. So it's just a different monetary, it's a different monetary standards right now. Things are different than the previous cycles, but we're almost close to getting that change. So if we get that change, then I do expect that these charts will start to, reflect that as well. So
For sure. I just want to shout out again everybody that is tuned in. Make sure you're following Matthew here at Matthew Hyland _ as you can see right there. Again, if you guys are going to be at Bitcoin, the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, me and Matt will be together. Kevin will be with us. Drew will be there from Blockchain Basement. TJ here, DZ, Joshua, Jake, our whole crew is going to be out there. We've got a house I'm gonna be grilling out at. We got some media set up stuff there. We'll be hanging out. There's a pool. So let me know if you're coming out. We'll try and coordinate to get some of you guys to come and kick it with us. I do also want to say, we do have a new channel partner here on BitLab Academy, as well as Discover Crypto and Blockchain Basement. That, of course, is with Bitcoin IRA. And this is one of my favorite things about where we're at in the cycle right now, of just the general broader scope of where Bitcoin and crypto sits in the US ecosystem, because there's real financial products out there and things like retirement accounts, like what we see here at bitcoinira.com. Make sure if you are interested in getting involved here, and you also have the ability, if you want to roll over your 401k into bitcoinira.com, it's a trusted, world's first and most trusted crypto IRA platform. They've been around for a number of years. And you're also able to, if you're out there trading, you can trade essentially not having it associated to your income each year if you're trading it within your IRA here on bitcoinira.com. And it's not like they only have 3 or 4 coins. They've got quite a few different coins. Look at that, 75 different cryptos that you can trade, invest, all these things, and basically tax shelter within your IRA. The phone number, if you're interested, is right here, 1-877-936-7175. And shout out to Chris Klein. We'll be having him back on the channel as well. He'll be running around with me while we're in Vegas as well. But shout out to Bitcoin IRA. Wonderful channel partners, and we're happy to be working with them. In addition to that, we also got, of course, LBank, and what else we got? Arculus. Make sure if you want to trade with us, that link is pinned in the top of the comments there on YouTube. It's also pinned in the top of the comments over on Rumble. For all of you that are tuned in over on Rumble, I just want to say thank you for being here with us. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Boom, right there, that pinned comment right here if you want to sign up and trade with us over on LBank. And then, of course, Arculus. Make sure you're protecting yourself, protect your crypto, protect your future. Get Arculus.com. Use code BitLab20 for 20% off. You get a package like this, and once you open it up, you slide it out. It is one tap, total security. It's my favorite crypto cold storage solution. But throwing it back over to my boy, Mr. Matthew Hyland. Are you excited about Vegas?
Yeah, it'll be nice to see everyone once again. It feels like it was recent though, like Nashville. That was back in July. It definitely feels recent, but it's been almost 10 months now, so it'll be cool to see everyone once again. And then, yeah, it's those events are definitely interesting. I would say for like everyone, maybe try one out, see if you like it. There's different things. You can meet a lot of people. It's definitely just like a closer. It's like being. It almost feels like you're like on Twitter, except everyone's in front of you, and
Oh my God, yeah. It's so
everyone's
great
like
to be
approachable
actually
to
in
it.
the same space as other people, not just looking at PFPs.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like just different to like meet people in person, etc. And a lot of people are like super approachable, and whatnot. So, yeah, it's definitely exciting. So hopefully Kevin, you know, doesn't flake. We'll see if he
Oh, we
shows
won't
up.
let him flake. But I did see
Yeah.
somebody ask if we're doing an Oculus drawing. I will say, this is Fridays. We only got 20. Remember, I said if we get 40, then we will do a giveaway. We only got 20, but we got that opportunity again today. If you're tuned in, watching right now, also, if you just want to show some love, easiest thing you can do is really just get active in the live chat, comment down below videos, but hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channels. And if you do want to come over here and hit this retweet button, we got about 2,108 people that tuned in over here on X. We've got, I think total, we've got, yeah, about 2,300, 2,500. It'll probably be about 15 or 20,000 by the end of the day over on Rumble and everything. I'll post this in the live chat there for YouTube. Let me post this over on Rumble as well, right here. If you retweet that link, if we get 40 by tomorrow, then we will do a giveaway tomorrow, either $100 value. It might be USDT, it might be an Arculus. But Matt, I always appreciate you coming on, especially today. My hip kind of jacked me up this morning, and so it kind of killed my energy today. So I was happy to have you come on, and I could just listen in on what you're seeing on the market. But that's all we got today. You got any closing thoughts?
No, it's like thundering like right now, like crazy, crazy storm outside my house. So I might lose power. So yeah, we'll end
Well,
this right here.
Well, right on, brother. And I will talk to you later. I'm going to be wrapping this pretty quickly because I got to run to another thing. But I love you guys. I appreciate you. Make sure you're following Matthew Hyland _. And of course, our accounts over on at Academy BitLab or at Kelly Kellam. But we love you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you again, Matthew. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate you. Watch out for the chop this week. I do think we're about to see some pretty strong resolutions to the upside. It just takes some work to get there. But that's all we got, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Adios.
See you later.